Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video in this 4-part series on how to edit in Premiere Pro for beginners. First off, I hope everyone is being safe and cautious during these unprecedented times. But this is also a great time to pick up a new hobby or learn a new skill, like how to use one of the most popular editing software out there, Premiere Pro. Now, just a heads up before we start, I do want to say that I am using the newest version, which is 2020. If you are using an older version of Premiere Pro, just know some things and layouts might be different because of that. So now, the first thing you see when you open up the program is this home page in this project window. Here you can see new projects as well as go into older projects you've worked on. We will be starting a new project, but you could see here it says you can see your recent projects that you've saved. The cool thing about Premiere Pro, like some other editing softwares as well, is that you can be collaborative when editing. Here you have team projects as well as opening other projects that might not be that recent. But we're just going to go ahead and start a new project. A window will open up asking you to designate a name and a location that you want to save your project in. So I would just go in. I'm just going to put it here in my internal hard drive. Let's call this Premiere for Beginners video V1. Here in this section, there really isn't anything that I would change. The only time you would want to change anything would be this graphics card renderer option. I always keep it here where it's defaulted, and all that means is I have a graphics card that I would like to be used in case I have to render some very high quality visuals. So if you know you're not really pushing it, you can always just go here to the basic default, but I always have it at acceleration, kind of sends it into overdrive, and I know I'm not going to have any problems rendering my work. So the other thing you have to be careful is where you're going to be saving this. So this is actually a very important process because where you save your location has an impact on how large a project you can edit. For example, if I save my project in a standard C drive folder where I may only have like 5 gigs left, which is probably what my actual C drive is like, but then my project at the end ends up being 10 gigs, then we have a problem, and you will notice that as you try to add other elements and assets and footage into your timeline, you'll get an error. So this would be a huge problem, especially when it comes to trying to resave your project in a location where you have enough space, but that might also cause you to have to relocate and relink certain media, and it can just be a hassle. So just make sure to be a little proactive and save your project where you know there's enough space that no matter how much footage and gigs that you're going to put into your project, it's enough to hold it where you're saving it. And then let's just do OK. Just going to make this bigger. The one thing that is really nice about Premiere is how flexible you can be in customizing this layout. So on top, you have a few default settings and presets. So for example, if I go to editing, it'll basically prioritize editing. If I go to color, this Lumetri color scope panel will pop up here. Now you won't see any color here because we don't have any footage to play with, but this is how it comes up. You can also go to window here and access them from here, which is also what's really nice is you can create your own workspace and save it as a new preset. Now for me specifically, I prefer, obviously when I'm starting, is putting it in editing mode. And this project right here, I like to bring it up top so I have a huge layout, a huge panel to work with. I could also just like drag and move it and everything. It's very versatile, which is really nice. So it's all up to you and your preference. So I don't even really like using all this. I like keeping my effects here. It's just a small tab. And my timeline, sometimes when I'm editing and I need to prioritize my timeline, I just bring it up here and the source window just becomes smaller. There's a lot of things. I could even put it to the side here and make it very, very vertical. So it's really nice. So now let's go into a little bit of this layout and show you guys how to navigate it. So here you have File. You can go into New. This is where you bring in your projects. You could also, sometimes it's missed, but you can go into New and create new legacy titles, bring in Photoshop files, or you could also go into Projects and bring in sequences, adjustment layers, really helpful for color grading, a black video, color mats, which are just solid colors that cover up, the aspect ratio of your project window. If you want to do that, that's easy, or you can do them here as well. This is kind of like what I was telling you guys in the beginning of the home page. You can bring in these projects, close projects, save. You save it here, you just Control S, which is standard among a bunch of other programs that you guys know. Save it as a copy. You can import files from here, or what I recommend is just hitting Control I. If you have a Windows PC computer or Mac, just do Command I. So here you can control the effects. You don't see anything here now because we don't have any footage in our timeline. So once we have footage, we can drop in audio effects, audio transitions, or video effects and transitions into each footage, and then we begin to edit them here. And this is also a default, so I just close that. That's with audio. You can tweak it a little bit more, make it better. And these are markers, and they will show up here when you go through your timeline and hit M. Basically, it's marking what you either want to look back on. It's all a production workflow, so if you know that at this point I want to do something else, I want to add this kind of color, I want to take this out, but you're not going to do it now, you can just put a marker and say that at this point I am going to do something, and you could write out, notes, or you could just leave notes. It's very helpful. So this is usually how I like to keep my workspace. If you have anything in here, all you have to do is drag it and drop it, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video. You can also go to color, like I showed you guys before, and you'll see a whole set of Lumetri colors here that you can play with. So now here you can go to edit. These aren't coming up, obviously, because we haven't really done anything. So this is where you undo and redo, it's just Control Z, copy and paste. Basic tools that you guys have seen in other forms of programs probably throughout your lifetime. Preferences. So here gets into a little bit of more advanced areas that you don't really need to mess with on a regular basis. This is just a general tab of how you want things to work out, shortcuts, presets type of thing, but for your controls. The only time I really go into here is when I go into audio hardware, and that's when I set up the default input and output. If I am directly going to record into Premiere, I would definitely want to put an input for the mic. But also the most important is you want to hear what you're editing, the audio or the music or the sound effects. So always designate an output. And usually that's some form of speaker or headphones that you have plugged into the computer. Now sometimes there's a lot of buildup into your computer, into the program, that makes you unable to edit properly. So all you have to do is delete media cache, and that's like cookies for computers. I mean, for the internet. So, but yeah, that's usually all that you would really need to do in these like preferences, because the default settings is usually what you'd want to work with in the beginning. And then here you have the sequence. Again, there's nothing showing because we don't have anything in here, but this is where you would edit your sequence settings mainly. And what a sequence is basically a timeline, which you guys can see here. Timeline, no sequences because we don't have nothing. And you can have multiple timelines in here. So not just one, and you could edit each one. My workflow does involve about 2 timelines. 2 sequences, so I'll show you guys that. And sequences are very important because the settings on there dictate the size of your video, as in resolution, aspect ratio, all of that. And that also affects exporting and finalizing your video, which we'll go into more detail next. And here you have markers tab, and this is basically just like the markers panel here, just goes into more detail. But there's also other, other shortcuts, key shortcuts to do all of this, which I will explain it to you and actually show you in the upcoming videos. This is your graphics. These are like essential elements and graphics that you could even find here. They're like templates or lower thirds or credits that you can drag and drop, and you could also find these in the internet. I don't really go to this that often, and you could also even have an Adobe stock account and use templates that are there for you to use. You know, they're just like titles. Makes it easy if you just want to make your video pop a little bit more. And this is your library. This is your Creative Cloud library. This comes with an account, you know, if you guys have one. That also has where you store other footage and elements. And then here you have just effects and audio. Again, just prioritizing, you know, these aspects in your workflow. But I like to go to editing, and I always have to put the project up here because that's where I like to have it. Also, you can have your source window up here, which shows up, and I'll explain to that in the next video why that's important. Realistically, I would just go into here, do workspaces, and then just save this as a new workspace. You know, I could do just editing 1. I'm not that creative with these names. So just like that, and that is my preset. Pretty simple. Just have effects there. And that's it. So like I said, the one thing that's really nice about Premiere is how versatile, you know, you can be with your layout. It's very easy to get used to everything on here. I don't think it's that crazy compared to other programs I've seen for other editing purposes. And then once you get used to it, you begin to get used to how you like to work in it and be able to adjust it to your settings. So that's it about Premiere Pro and how to navigate the layout. Check back in next week for the second video on how to begin editing your footage and bringing it into the timeline, into Premiere and into the timeline. Now, before I end the video, I want to let you guys know about lynda.com. It's a really effective tool to turn to when wanting to learn anything new, especially Premiere Pro. I know I have used it countless times to improve my skills, my editing skills, or learn new skills that I've never really explored before. I even made sure to look into the Premiere Pro 2020 Essential Training from lynda.com to help me compile this program for you guys. And what's great is that it's completely free as long as you have a Poplar Creek Public Library card. So I'm just going to show you what you guys will have to do to access lynda.com if you don't already know. Here I have pclib.org. It's the library's website. You just go to resources. You guys can see here in the database we have a lot of helpful tools for you guys to use. But here at the bottom is lynda.com. And all you have to do is enter your library card information. And there we go. And then just log in. And you'll see here in the library there's so many different skills that you guys can learn, different fields, different types of information all here for you. And what I recommend is this, you could also just type it out in the search, Premiere Pro 2020 Essential Training, where you can get more of an advanced look, exercise files. What's great is you have transcript if you don't want to watch the video and just want to read what they're saying. It's all here, and they perfectly organize it in different contents like chapters and courses for you guys, and it gets saved for you on your account as progress, and it's just a really nice tool to have, and it's all completely free with your Poplar Creek Public Library card. So I hope you guys look to it as an additional tool to use.